Marissa Irwin was a healthy and happy little girl. But at age 12, she began to have crippling stomach aches and headaches. Now at 15, she can barely walk, and she's unable to go to school.
Marissa, at this point, had severe headaches, I would say probably 80% of the time. And she walked usually about 10 to 15 feet. If she didn't pass out, she would at least have to go down on one knee because she was severely dizzy.
I would just get so exhausted, and my head would start hurting again, so I would be in a wheelchair.
Horrified by Marissa's downward slide, Gail kept trying new doctors.
I didn't go anywhere. I mean, the only places that I went were to doctors.
Most parents were taking their kids to soccer practice and tap classes and ballet, and I took her to the doctors.
But no doctor could give Gail the answers she was looking for.
One doctor did tell me that I needed to accept the fact that my daughter would live in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. I wasn't willing to accept that.
Determined to save her daughter, Gail searched the internet, hoping to find a clue.
I came across a lady who had trouble maintaining her blood pressure. She eventually had an MRI, and they found that she had what's considered a Chiari 1 malformation. When I looked up what that was, it talked about how the very back portion of the brain herniates into the neck. And she had surgery, and all of her symptoms were gone, and she was fine.
Remembering the slight bulge that the radiologist had seen on Marissa's MRI 2 years earlier, Gail wondered, could this be the same thing?
So I went back to that original radiologist and asked him, could you look at it again? And he basically drew a line at the bottom of the skull, and he said there should be no brain matter below this. But on one of the images there was, but he said it's so small it shouldn't cause a problem. So then I started doing research on neurosurgeons.
Gail made appointments with several neurosurgeons who might be able to determine if indeed that small bulge could be the sign of something more serious.
One neurosurgeon was very kind. Basically, he said, I see what you see on her scan, but I really don't know if surgery would help her.
She would reassure me that we would find a doctor that would help me.
I think Gail tended to put on a good front in front of her daughter, in front of Marissa. I think that Gail knew that there was something going on that wasn't right. Part of my mind said that how could all these people with so much knowledge tell you that there's nothing wrong with her, and you think that there is something wrong with her? But at the same time, if there was an answer out there, I just felt that I had to find it, even if everybody else did think I was a little nutty.
Gail got back on the internet and found a Chiari 1 website. The more she read, the more convinced she was that her daughter had a Chiari 1 malformation.
Then I started reading all of their emails, and a lot of the people had talked about Dr. Bolognese and Dr. Mellerat and the Chiari Institute on Long Island. I told her, if you think New York has a specific clinic for the problem you think she has, why don't you just go to New York?
Within a week, Gail and Marissa were on their way to meet with Dr. Bolognese.
Well, first of all, he's Italian, so he has this thick Italian accent, and he is very friendly.
I remember this skinny little girl coming through the door, and with a shy smile. And sure enough, a couple of feet behind her, there was her mother. They were always together, like part of one whole ensemble.
He's like none of the other neurosurgeons that we met. He's very calm. He explained everything to us.
Typically, all of our patients come to us and they stay with us for a period of 2 days. During those 2 days, they get analyzed from top to bottom. We do several tests. We do a neurological exam. We do a bunch of different MRIs.
He felt that possibly she had a Chiari 1 malformation, but he couldn't really tell.
I knew that some of the symptoms were typical of the disorder we treat, but not all the boxes were checked.
Chiari 1 malformation occurs when the skull does not have enough space to accommodate the brain. The brain gets squeezed out of the large opening at the base of the skull and down into the spine. The increased pressure within the brain can cause headaches, numbness, dizziness, and nausea. Left untreated, it can evolve into paralysis.
there were actually some features of her anatomy on the MRI that didn't fit with Chiari 1 malformation at all. At the same time, her joints were very wobbly. She was having a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It is a disorder of the connective tissues. They are the tissues that allow us to do this kind of tricks, or for the contortionist to be famous in a circus.
But Ehlers-Danlos didn't explain all of Marissa's symptoms. Then Dr. Bolognese noticed another abnormality.
He also said that she had a retroflexed odontoid, the small piece of bone that allows your head to rotate instead of being pointing upwards or out a little bit, was pointing backwards.
The head tends to sag down over your spine and is pushing against the anterior part of the brainstem.
Because of the weakness in her tissues brought on by the Ehlers-Danlos, Marissa's neck wasn't supporting her head sufficiently. So the odontoid bone at the top of her spinal column was pressing into her brain. The tests told Bolognese a lot about Marissa's condition. She showed signs of several different disorders: Chiari 1, Ehlers-Danlos, and a retroflexed odontoid. But there still wasn't one clear diagnosis.
At the end of the consultation, we decided to give Marissa some schoolwork. We were not going to dump her because she was not going to satisfy all our check boxes.
He wanted to do more testing, and I was just almost relieved that someone was at least willing to take steps to see if they could find a reason for all these symptoms.
In an effort to relieve the pressure on Marissa's brain, Dr. Bolognese wanted to try putting Marissa in a temporary traction device.
He sent us home with a prescription for a cervical collar. Whenever we would go out anywhere, I'd put her in the collar. Dr. Bolognese also ordered a over-the-door traction unit, and he told her, whenever you're feeling real bad, just see if this will help. She was just shocked the first time. Within 10 minutes, all the pain in her head was gone when she was in traction.
It gave me hope. It gave me faith that he could actually help me. He was the one that was going to help me.
After Marissa and I saw that there were good results, Dr. Bolognese